Welcome to the CLAWS YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Welcome to IIRF CLAWS weekly podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This podcast is a collaborative venture of two leading independent Indian think tanks, that is Indus International Research Foundation and the Center for Land Warfare Studies. In this weekly podcast, we bring you insightful discourses and discussions and international issues, say geopolitics and national security related topics. Gentlemen, on this platform, we bring you eminent, high-profile, professional personalities who have hands-on experience on the topics under discussion. The topic of discussion today is Operation Cactus, carried out by the Indian Air Force in Maldives, if you remember, way back in 1988. Those who had attended our last podcast will know that Maldives was covered in great detail by us in our last streaming. But in feedback, we got a request from the audience to cover Operation Cactus carried out in Maldives that had added a new dimension to India's strategic reach away from its territorial boundaries. And who could be more apt to talk on this topic other than someone who actually took part in these operations? Ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate to have with us today Group Captain Ashok Chordia, retired, who apart from being a logistic officer of the Indian Air Force, had the distinction of specializing during his service career as a para-jump instructor and special forces instructor. He is an alumni of Sainik School, Rewa, the National Defense Academy, and the College of Air Warfare. As a parachute jump instructor at the Paratroopers Training School, and later as the Commandant and Chief Instructor of Garud Regiment Training Center. Garud Regiment, by the way, is the commando unit of the Indian Air Force. So all the Army, Navy, Air Force got their own commando force trained, and the Indian Air Force commando force is called the Garud Force. And Group Captain Chordia has trained paratroopers of all the three services. He's himself credited with over 500 para descents, para jumps, including combat skydiving from 10 different types of aircrafts. He holds the Limca book record for a rare parachuting achievement and is the founding member of the Akash Ganga, the skydiving team of the IAF. Many of you must have seen the performance of Akash Ganga. So Group Captain Chordia is one of the pioneers who has set up this skydiving team in the Indian Air Force. Now, why we decided to invite him today to our podcast is because he was in the Indian contingent launched by the then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, in November 1988 to rescue the then President M.A. Gayoom of Maldives, who was held hostage by an armed group of terrorists who wanted to topple his government in Maldives. And thereafter, he sent a SOS message to Mr. Sri Rajiv Gandhi. And Rajiv Gandhi responded very, very alacritely, positively. In a lightning response, the Indian Air Force, the armed forces, overwhelmed the terrorists and rescued President Gayoom. As a parachute jump instructor, Group Captain Chordia had a significant responsibility to shoulder in that operation. One of the most daring military operations ever undertaken. Operation Cactus has proved the prowess of the Indian military and diplomacy. Now he has penned down his experience of this spectacular operation in a book published with the title Operation Cactus, Anatomy of One of India's Most Daring Military Operations. You will be glad to know, ladies and gentlemen, that Discovery Channel had telecasted a documentary based on this book, and a feature film on the subject is also in offing. Uh, uh, I hope it will be just like Entebbe or operation that we had we have watched with so much of interest. Our another remarkable speaker today is Captain ARC Varma. Welcome, Varma sir, who served in the Indian Navy as engineering officer between 1977 to 2007. Thereafter, he had worked in Indian Customs Revenue Intelligence as director and also in the Mezagon Dock, finally retiring in 2016. In Navy, he had served on board INS Sharab, INS Vidyut, which is a missile boat, INS Godavari, and INS Dunagiri, both frigates. The reason we invited him on our podcast today is same, because he also, like Group Captain Chordia, had taken part in Operation Cactus actively. Ladies and gentlemen, he was on board INS Godavari when the Operation Cactus took place. He has personal experience with the engagement with the terrorists who were finally apprehended by the Indian Navy by this frigate on which he was on board. With this introduction, I will, without any ado, I will request first Group Captain Chordia to share his experiences about this operation. We are very much interested to know how it all started, how it panned out, and how it ended. All to you. Floor is yours, Group Captain Chordia, sir.
Thank you, Group Captain Mehta, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Can you connect me, start my presentation, please? The subject is very close to my heart, and so that the time doesn't run out, I will straight away start the presentation. This was the news headline in the Times of India on the 4th of November, 1988. Coup attempt in the Maldives, Indian troops flown. And the next day, the headline was Indian troops crush Malay coup, Gayoom in full control. Between these two headlines, history had been created. Operation Cactus proved the prowess of Indian diplomacy and military. There was praise from all over the world. The Americans praised it. The Brits, Margaret Thatcher, was very candid. She said, "We couldn't have done it." Operation Cactus projected India as an emerging regional power and a force to reckon with. Then there was an opinions galore. Some people said that it was a cakewalk. We went, we saw, we conquered like Julius Caesar. Some said it was a foolhardy operation. Returns were not worth the risk we took. Some compared it with the most daring operations, Entebbe and Operation Aish, in which Mussolini was rescued. Some said it was the charge of the Light Brigade with a twist in the tail. And after that, the wisdom dawned. Some people said we could have done this, we could have done that. And there were so many opinions after that. Even R.K. Lakshman had an opinion. Nurturing and airing opinions is a people's right in a democracy. This was the opinion expressed by R.K. Lakshman. What matters is informed opinion. And perhaps after this presentation, uh, people who are viewing this presentation will have a different opinion. We are revisiting Operation Cactus. In a nutshell, as told by Group Captain Mehta, it was at the behest of the Maldivians. Indian Air Force airlifted the paratroopers from Agra and positioned them in the Maldives. The paratroopers rescued the president and secured the islands. The Indian Navy forced the fleeing rebels into surrender and rescued the hostages. Diplomatic Corps had an important role to play. Without their contribution, probably this operation would have been difficult. What was I doing in this operation? As mentioned by Group Captain Mehta, I was a parachute jump instructor posted in the Paratroopers Training School, Agra, and there was a proposal, there was an option to carry out a paradrop in case the runway was unsafe and aircraft was not likely to land. We would have carried out a paradrop. My team was supposed to prepare the troops and help them drop the troops from the aircraft. What I'm going to share today with you is based on my recollections, interviews of a large number of people I have taken from a book. I've gone through a lot of official records, unit histories, and the views that I'm expressing are my personal views. Uh, Other people who have participated in this operation might have different views on it. What follows is the genesis, why it happened, how it used to happen in those days, inertia on that particular day, Operation Cactus itself, and some parting thoughts. To begin with, the country Maldives was a British protectorate for a very long time. It became a republic in 1968. There are 200 habited islands out of 1100 which belong to that country. You can imagine the problem of governance of such islands. All the islands cannot be reached by the government, and all of them can't have equal benefits provided by the government. As a result, whatever a government does, people are dissatisfied, and some of these disgruntled people have been rising against the government. There had been two coup attempts against President Gayoom. Both of them failed. This one, the third one in which we were involved, almost succeeded. The story goes like this. Lutufi and a businessman from Maldives who was in Sri Lanka at that time, he joined hands with Maheshwaran, who was the leader of People's Liberation Organization of Tamil Eelam, a splinter group of LTTE. They had colluded, and the deal was that in case they succeeded, Lutufi would grant some islands, give control of some islands to Maheshwaran, and he would be able to carry out his nefarious activities in this region. And the plan was to reach the Maldives on a day when the president was not there. And the opportunity came on the 3rd of November 1988. Around that time, the president of Maldives, Mr. M.A. Gayoom, was expected to be in India. These terrorists, numbering 80, they got into trawlers and set course from Sri Lanka to the Maldives. It was around the 26th of October, and they had no contact with the rest of the world. The president of Maldives, he got an inkling that something like this was likely to happen. So he cancelled his trip to India. As a result, the president was there on the islands when these people landed. These terrorists, thinking that the president is not there, they got into, they started rampaging the city, they started looting the shops, and started killing people. The president went into hiding, and from there he sent SOS messages to a large number of Commonwealth countries, India, UK, to US also, to Sri Lanka, to Pakistan. But people knew the difficulty of undertaking such a mission. The runway was expected to be under control of the terrorists, so nobody came forward to help. India finally came up with assistance, and that's the story of Operation Cactus. You can see the distances. From Colombo, the distance was 764 kilometers. From Diego Garcia, the distance was 1285. Karachi, it was 2400. From Agra, from where we had taken off, the distance was about 2600 kilometers. We were the farthest. The SOS messages that came, they gave the impression that there were Tamils, those rebels were from Sri Lanka, Tamils from Sri Lanka. They were on a shooting spree. They had taken control of a large number of installations. There was a doubt about the number of those rebels. Initially, it was told that there are 500 of them. Then it was said there are 800. Then the message came that there are 1,000 of them and LTT cadres. And they were the dreaded people those days. They were heavily armed. And the most damning thing about the messages that came was that they were capable of shooting down an aircraft. So the preparations had to cater for all these contingencies. The first message came to Mr. Kuldeep Sahdev, the Joint Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs. He informed Mr. Ronenson, who was the troubleshooter for Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. The Prime Minister, who was that time in Patna on his way to Calcutta, he called off his visit and he asked Mr. Ronenson to organize a meeting. Luckily, on that day, Mr. A.K. Banerjee, the Indian High Commissioner to Maldives, was in Delhi. He had come in connection with the visit of the President of Maldives. The Air Force, Army, and the Navy were alerted with no specific information about what was to be done. The Air Chief was not there in Delhi. The Naval Chief was not there. Both of them were away. The Vice Chiefs were officiating. Only the Army Chief General V.N. Sharma was there in Delhi. When the first messages came, people were intelligent. They said that there was a possibility that there would be any further telephone calls. So they didn't drop the line. Sorry. The telephone line was kept alive for next about 18 hours. On the same line, they kept on getting messages, and a code was decided that in case the person who was speaking to us on telephone lines, if he was under threat, he would use certain phrases and communicate that whatever he's saying is under duress. That turned out to be the longest call that probably after Graham Bell invented the telephone, that was the longest call perhaps. The second thing that we did was that the people on the other end, the Maldivians, they were advised to remove all the boats, the speed boats, they called them dhonis, to be removed from island of Malé, from the capital, and move them away from there so that the terrorists are unable to come to the island of Hulule where the runway was. This was done. Now the dilemma was, should we get involved? When the Prime Minister came, he had a lot of apprehensions. He was because of the setbacks in Sri Lanka, and the biggest worry was that in case an operation like this was launched, by the time we land there, if the terrorists had taken charge of the country, it would amount to be an unprovoked aggression by the Indians. So the stakes were very high. A vital decision had to be made with limited inputs. However, the Indian diplomats, they were of the opinion that we must help Maldives because this is a time we can prove our worth in the region. And when the Indian Prime Minister asked General V.N. Sharma about his opinion about the operation, he said we will be able to do it. He asked him, "What about the casualties?" He says, "I can't say anything. There might be 70% casualties, but then we can do it." So after a little more discussion, it was finally decided to go ahead with the operation. The commanders at all levels were given freedom to act. The challenges I can list out, one was of the intelligence. We were not very sure what was the strength and the capabilities of the rebels. There were no maps of the islands. If the troops were to land there, they wouldn't know where to go. The situation was fluid. Who controlled the airport? This information was very vital, and every minute the situation was changing. Then the hazard of landing on the runway. The runway was too small. There was sea all around, water all around, and in case the runway was unsafe, and if we were to carry out a paradrop, whether the troops will land on the island or they will land in the sea, was a big question mark. And above all, the troops were scattered all over, mustering men and setting off on this mission 2,600 kilometers away before the rebels could find the president was a Herculean task. And then, as I said earlier, landing on that small runway in the night without any aids was going to be a challenging task. It was a race against time. In those days, there was no quick reaction force. Pavan was in full swing in Sri Lanka. You couldn't have taken out troops from there and sent to the Maldives. The standard response time under such conditions, as I have been told by the army counterparts, is 36 hours minimum. And here we were expected to get airborne in about 2 hours. The communication those days, we didn't have the mobile phones, we didn't have such hot communication. Very few landline telephones had the STD facility, and on that day, the telephone line from Para Brigade to Air Headquarters was also down. After the meeting with the Prime Minister, after the decision had been taken, there was no time to issue written orders to people in Agra, to Para Brigade and to 44 Squadron. So it was decided that two officers who were present during the meeting for brief periods, Brigadier VP Malik, who later on rose to be the army chief, and Group Captain Goyal, they were they were asked to go to Agra and brief the Para Brigade and 44 Squadron. As they were about to leave Delhi, Brigadier Malik thought that in case the Indian High Commissioner, Mr. A.K. Banerjee, also joined them, it would be good. He would be able to brief the Para Brigade and tell them something about the islands. Initially, he was reluctant, but then he joined them. So these three people, they landed in Agra. In Agra on 3rd November 1988, it was business as usual. It was Diwali time, and a large number of officers and men were on leave. Inertia on that day, 3 para, 6 para, and 7 para battalions, which were supposed to be participating in this operation, had some commitment or the other. For example, 7 para was in an exercise in Rajasthan, about 150 kilometers away from Agra. 3 para, uh, a company of 3 para was in Lucknow, guarding the command house, and 6 para companies were guarding COD in Agra. So, how to get them in 2 hours and launch an operation was going to be a tough task, as I said earlier. A battalion intact was not readily available. When the vice chief, that time General Rodrigues, he called Agra to have a word with the brigade commander, Brigadier Bulsara. He wasn't available on the line, so Brigade Major uh, Major Bhatia that time, he took the call and he apprised him about the situation where the troops were. So he was almost pulled up by the general there. He said, I will court martial you. I want the troops to be airborne in 2 hours. So that's how things moved. I was also preparing for a skydiving demonstration in the NDA when the orders came. Now, mustering men, as I said, it was a Herculean task. Uh, Dispatch riders were sent all over the town to get them back from wherever they were. When the briefing was going on, the Indian High Commissioner jumped up suddenly because we were planning to land on an island about 400 kilometers south of Hulule on Gan Island. He said, you are planning for the wrong island. So his presence made a big difference. And then the planning started for landing at Hulule Island. We had only 65 parachutes that day. So in the aircraft, in which more than 100 troops were there, only 65 were carrying parachutes. In case there was a requirement, only 65 would have jumped. There was an uncertainty whether we would land in Trivandrum and refuel or will go direct. So until the decision was taken, the aircraft could not be refueled, because if the aircraft had to go directly to Maldives, they would require more fuel. In the alternate case, in case they were to land at Trivandrum, they would carry less fuel and carry more armament. Brigadier Bulsara also had a brainwave. He thought that in case the Indian High Commissioner joined us on board, he would be there as a moving map with us. He would be able to guide us. So, sorry, he requested the Indian High Commissioner to come along. Initially, again, he was hesitant. He said, "My job is done. I have already briefed you." But finally, he came along with us. He was there in the first aircraft which landed there. The situation on that day is beautifully described by Brigadier Bulsara. If the Maldivians were caught with their trousers at the ankle level, 50 brigades at best were at half mast. He has written this in an article. When we were about to take off, the Air Force top brass were in one aircraft, and the Army top brass, Brigadier Bulsara and his team, were in the other aircraft. Brigadier Bulsara called me and he said that my aircraft must land there first, whereas the planning was for the other aircraft where Group Captain Goyal and Group Captain Bevur were there. They were planning to land first. So there was a little bit of hiccup. Then Major Bhatia at that time, he came along with me. I went there first. They told me to go back. They said it is just not possible. Then Brigadier Bulsara sent Major Bhatia with me. Two of us went there. And then finally, a last minute decision was taken. The crew of the two aircraft were changed. So the lead aircraft had all the top brass, Army and Air Force top brass in the same aircraft. RT silence was maintained all through. Over Trivandrum, the civilian air traffic controller wanted to stop us. He said, I mean, you have no permission, and we don't have any plans of the IL-76 going towards the Maldives. So the captain of the aircraft, he conversed and he asked him, "Do you have an Air Force officer there?" They said, "Yes." Wing Commander Panikkar was there, and as luck would have it, Group Captain Bevur and Wing Commander Panikkar had served together in Iraq, and both of them knew Arabic. So Group Captain Bevur told him in Arabic that please tell these people to shut up. We are on a special mission, and that's how we carried on towards the Maldives. The briefing of the troops, distribution of ammunition, and priming of grenades, etc. Everything was done on board the aircraft. This is never done. This was an exception. We don't do these things in an airborne aircraft. Minimum aids were available at the other end when we just approached the runway Hulule Island. The understanding was there in case the runway is safe, the controller would say Hudia, 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 and uh, it would be taken for granted that the runway is safe and we would land. So we got that message. The runway lights were switched off for most of the time. They were turned on only momentarily before we were about to land, and then they were switched off again. It was a safe landing, a perfect landing. The troops got out of the aircraft and fanned out, took control of the ATC and the island of Hulule. Brigadier Bulsara spoke to the president and he assured him that we would be soon there to take care of him. Friendly two aircraft, when it came to land, there were troops on the runway. Luckily, nothing happened. The troops, as I told you earlier, the boats were available to us. And in the duration of 4 hours since we took off from Agra, terrorists had not taken charge of this runway. So our troops got into the boats and headed towards the island of Malé, where the president was hiding, and the terrorists were on a shooting spree. Now, on the side of the terrorists, they were awed by the arrival of IL-76 aircraft. They heard the loud noise, and even in the night, from the distance, they saw those massive aircraft and the salute of the troops there. They thought that a big force has landed there. So they prepared to run away from there. They killed 19 people. They took 7 hostages and hijacked a merchant vessel, Progress Light. They left behind some of the colleagues who couldn't join them back, and they set sail. They were initially planning to go towards Java, but then they changed their mind later on to head towards Sri Lanka. Brigadier Bulsara's men opened fire at them and damaged the ship. So they decided to go to Sri Lanka. The troops reached Male. Our troops reached Male. The President Gayoom was finally reached by our troops. They formed a human shield around him and took him to the National Security Service headquarters. Mr. Gayoom thanked Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. The telephone call I was talking about was finally disconnected at this time. Next morning, the Mirage fighters from 7th Squadron flew low over the islands and weakened the resolve of the rebels who were left behind on the islands. And when the army went went for a house-to-house search, they were captured. INS Betwa set sail from Cochin, INS Godavari, which now Captain Varma will tell you. The mission was accomplished, President was rescued, the islands were secured, hostages were freed, and peace descended. There are just 2 points I want to mention here. One is what possibly worked in this operation. There are many theories. People say that it was a lightning operation, it was a good decision taken by the political leadership and the military leadership, and coordination between the forces, the jointness, and all those things. I see it slightly differently. The mission succeeded because of the perception of asymmetry. I'll explain it briefly. First, the perception, our perception of the paratroopers. We thought that the terrorists are 500 in number, and we knew that in the first wave, in the first two aircraft that landed, we were 316. So there was an asymmetry, but then we thought that more aircraft were going to follow, so we'll have enough numbers subsequently. Now the perception of the terrorists, they knew that there were 80, and in an interview many years later, Lutufi confessed that they thought that we were 1,600. So this was the perception of the terrorists. And he said that how could we have fought those large, that large an army? And the fact was that they were 80 and we were 316. We were 4 times the rebels. So among other reasons, perhaps perception of unassailable asymmetry in the minds of the adversary could have been the reason of our success. Now, 3 chance events which influenced this operation. One is the presence of Indian High Commissioner. He was with us like a live map. He guided us through the operation. Then in Agra, when they were looking around for maps, they didn't have any maps. Major Harkirat Singh, he came up with a coffee table book which was presented to him by his father, who was the Lieutenant Governor of Andamans. And who gave him the coffee table book? It was a minister visiting from Maldives who had gone to the Andamans, and he had given the coffee table book to General Oberoi. So we had that coffee table book. That was also a matter of chance. Photocopies were made from the pages of that coffee table book and were used by us. And the last one is the third chance event that helped us was the Australia Day. In 1788, the first convicts were sent from England to Australia, and they celebrate that as Australia Day every year. That year it was the 200th anniversary, and they had invited the navies of friendly countries. Indian Navy was one of them, and INS Godavari happened to be there for the Australia Day celebrations. It was on its way back, and it was near Sri Lanka that time that this operation took place, and INS Godavari was directed. Again, I think Captain Varma will elucidate that. There are times to take well-reasoned risks, which we took this time, in this case, and victory is its own validation. The need for India to intervene in Asia Pacific region cannot be ruled out. Such situations will keep coming up. What if something like this happens in our own islands? And then when it happens next time, there will be more players. In Maldives itself, the Chinese have built a bridge, which Maldivians are very thankful to the Chinese for it. Can we do it again? If the Blue Force has learned its lessons, we have learned some lessons there, so has the Red Force. So it will be very difficult to copy paste that operation. The present leadership will have the answers to whether we can do it again. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your precious time and attention.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Group Captain Chordia. It was a wonderful, wonderfully narrated in quite exciting details. The kind of detail that we have not uh, read in newspapers or magazines. This is a personal account of the minute to minute how it all happened, and I'm sure this is not in the public domain. The things that you narrated to us, and we get a tremendous sense of feel how difficult the situation would have been, how much uncertainty was there, and how little information and how little resources were available. And hats off to the planners and decision makers that despite all those tremendous handicapness, and we have learned about so many other such missions, how meticulously planned, and it takes months, and they are trained, and appropriate equipments are positioned, intelligence is there, communication is there, and without all this you still dare to do it. I mean, hats off to the people who, both of you, sir, hats off that you could dare to do it and come out successfully. Now, I will request Captain Varma to tell us his side of the story, how Navy came to know about it and how it reacted and what all it did. And I believe the Navy had the major role because they were the one who apprehended most of these terrorists. So all floor is yours, sir. We are eager to listen to your experience.
Jai Hind to all the viewers. I'm quite excited actually to take part in this talk, which happened, live. Captain Chordia has already explained in detail about the role of Army and Air Force. I'll just cover what Indian Navy did in this operation. I was posted on board INS Godavari as senior engineer, and we were returning from 3 months actually foreign assignment covering Indonesia, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, and we landed up. We reached Port Blair on 2nd November, and the plan was to fuel, take ration, and do the custom clearance, and sail on third morning and reach Mumbai as early as possible because everyone was eager to reach home. So third morning we sailed from Port Blair for directly to Mumbai. Never Indian Navy has attempted such long sailing without fueling. So we decided to do economical speed at 120 RPM. That gives about 18 knots speed, and thought we'll do it in 5 days and reach Mumbai. So we were doing 18 knots since morning. Around evening, we got. I was in the MCR, and we got the order to increase the RPM to 160, which is about 24 knots. And there, the fuel consumption increases almost twice what we were doing. So we just said that CO is in hurry to reach home, maybe. But the RPM didn't reduce, the orders didn't come. So by night, I went to bridge to find out what is the matter. Because I was in the engine room, and doing continuously 24 knots is very difficult for a frigate. So the captain said, ki, we are in some operation called Cactus, and we have to intercept this merchant vessel Progress Light, which has taken hostages from Maldives, and we don't know much of the details more than this. So we said fine. So we continued. And fifth morning, we intercepted Progress Light. First slide, first photograph. Now, this happened because we were coming from the opposite direction. Progress Light was going to Sri Lanka, and we were coming from opposite directions. So we were the first to intercept Progress Light. We asked Progress Light to stop. They didn't stop. Then we fired few anti-aircraft guns. We scared them, but they were continuing. Ultimately, captain decided a very orthodox method. He said, let's drop some depth charges by the helicopter. So the seeking helicopter took off from Godavari, carrying some depth charges. Depth charges are actually used to destroy the submarine, but we used it against the ship. The pilot dropped two depth charges in succession in front of Progress Light. The moment the depth charges blasted underwater, there was a tsunami of waves. The Progress Light went upwards vertically and then came down, shattered the whole ship. The mercenaries, they got panicked, and they all came on the forecastle deck, that is the forward of the ship. In the meantime, because of the friction, there was a fire amidship. Second slide, second photograph. So you can see that there was a fire amidship Progress Light, and the hostages took advantage and they went on the quarterdeck side. The moment we saw that hostages are on the quarterdeck side, they were waving from there. We lowered our boats, we rescued all the hostages. And after that, the task was to get these mercenaries on board. Now we had no handcuffs, so we cut this 6 mm nylon ropes in 2 feet length, and then sent the boats one by one. These people came. It was a very slow process. At the time we could take only 2-3 mercenaries because no chance was taken. They were brought on board, tied their hands and legs, and they were kept in the hello hanger. This is how we collected all the mercenaries. After that, by that time Betwa also came. So Betwa and our crew, they went on board, boarded the vessel Progress Light, got all the papers, charts and everything. We saw the body of second engineer also, who was killed on board. Then we asked Betwa to tow Progress Light to Cochin, and we decided to go to Maldives to hand over the mercenaries to the Indian Army. Now, when we were about to leave the ship for Maldives, we found one more person standing on Progress Light, waving his vest and asking with folded hands to take him also along. So the people who were mercenaries who were arrested, they told me he is Raju from Jaffna. He was the second in command. who was left on board. So we again load the boat, again got this chap in the boat, and our XO from the ship said, check him thoroughly because he is a dangerous person. And all these people were in the age group of 18 to 21, very agile, very fit people. They could have, if one rope gets untied, they would have untied all the 80 people within 1 minute. That was the kind of people they were. So this Raju was checked thoroughly. He was wearing lungi, so his lungi was also removed. Exo said, remove the lungi. And then suddenly Exo said he is hiding pistol in his underwear. And everyone was, every boat crew got panicked. Ultimately, his underwear also was removed. There was no pistol at. So, we all had a hearty laugh at that time also, even in those tense moments. Then next day we handed over these mercenaries to Indian Army. Next photograph. These are the mercenaries who are kept in the hello hangar. Next. This is the army senior officer visiting our ship. Next. This is where we are handing over the mercenaries to Indian Army. Next. This is the Malay Island, you can see from our ship. Next. President Gayoom visited our ship. So this is his visit. He is in the ops room of ship. Captain Gopalachari is explaining to him. Next. This is myself shaking hand with President Gayoom. President Gayoom later on called all of us for dinner, and then we came to know a lot of inside stories, how they contacted Rajiv Gandhi and how they could get the assistance. And I consider this was one of the best, textbook example for the armed forces, which happened in such quick time and without much preparation, without much this thing. But there was complete synergy between Army, Navy, and Air Force, which even with preparation you cannot get such kind of synergy. And it was a very successful operation. And after that, we remained in Malé for almost 30 days, protecting, because Gayoom was not ready to relieve us until any other Indian naval ship comes to Malé. So we remained there for 30 days, and thereafter Himgiri relieved us, and then we returned to, in fact, we went to Tuticorin after that, because Sri Lanka operation was also on. So our 3 months assignment of foreign assignment almost became 5 months before we could reach Mumbai. So that was the, very briefly I could tell how we have taken part in this operation. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to explain. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. So all that hurry that you people had in reaching home was extended by 2 months.
Yes.
That is also an interesting fact. And wonderful, very nice. Again, that practical, real operation details we got, and what all was going on in the minds of the people there on INS Godavari. This is tremendous. And personally, I feel that Indians are the best in what is called Jugaad. And I will call this operation not that classic operation that we learn in our military academies. And yeah, this was a Jugaad operation.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Most of the military and defense activities are jugaad because we have to take instant
yes, yes.
decisions and utilize the immediately available resources rather than asking for some ideal situation. But this was at a very different level, and thanks to really telling us that this is how it was done. And we don't have much time because the podcast is limited to 1 hour and we are about to reach 1 hour, but we will take few questions from the audience. Let us see. There is one gentleman, Akash Krishna Thandani, and he says, sirs, I understand it. Ops Cactus was a tri-service joint operation. I expect due references and regard would be given to the role of the parachute regiment and para brigade. Uh, sir, Chordia, sir, you would like to respond?
I think Para Brigade played a very, very important role in this operation, and it cannot be denied. Uh, they were first prepared to carry out a paradrop, and in the circumstances, the runway was unsafe. And in that case, as General V.N. Sharma said, the losses could be about 70%, yet they were ready to do it. Then, after landing there, I have seen them myself pushing doors here and there, climbing the air traffic control where the terrorists could have been hiding. How daringly they did everything is it just can't be described in words. And then they got into boats headed towards the island. It is a matter of chance that nothing happened. We had no casualties, but then what could have happened, you can't imagine. I mean, if something had happened, people would have said that this was a foolhardy operation. So hats off to the para brigade. Brigadier Bulsara was very daring. He took that decision that the aircraft should land and will carry on with this operation. He was in fact being guided by people in Delhi to carry out the operation in a particular way. And I believe he turned back and he said that if you want me to do it, let me do it myself, the way I want to do it. Else, you find somebody else to do it. And I must add also one more thing to this. Even at that time when the uncertainty was at its peak, I went to Brigadier Bulsara in the aircraft, and I knew that in case there is a paradrop, I will go back. I will not be a part of the operation. So I said, "What you have in your mind at this moment, please write it in my diary." And hats off to him. He wrote in my diary that by 1000 hours tomorrow, we'll rescue the president and secure the airstrip.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Group Captain Chordia. Now, the next question is from Sri Tik Kotari, and he asks, sirs, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia was on ground for Ops Cactus. Any particular reason why he wasn't invited for this talk? It would be awesome to hear his experience. Takes two, regardless. Thanks. Okay, I will respond to this question. Mr. Kothari, uh, you have I take your suggestion. We organized this talk in a very short notice and within the resources that was available to us. Yes, if we will try to contact General Vinod Bhatia at some point of time, and we can have another bigger program on the Indus International Research Foundation platform where we have more time. Here there is a time restriction for 1 hour podcast, and therefore I must say sorry that we could not contact him, but we will try if possible to if he's willing to also host him on our platform. Thank you. And the next question is from somebody who calls himself Future DG Artillery. Anyway, we will ignore that. Let us see what is his question. He asks, if a coup attempt were to happen today in Maldives, would President Moizu ask us for help to save his chair, or would he disallow Indian soldiers from Maldives, given his famous stance in it. Okay, this is a satirical question. I leave it to my esteemed speakers. One of you, if you like to respond to that.
Okay. I think this question can't be answered straight. The Chinese have built a bridge there in the Maldives, the island of Hulule and Malé, between which our troops had traveled by boat, is now connected by a bridge. And I didn't have enough time and the opportunity to show you. There was a slide in my presentation where they say that the waves are a gift from God and the bridge is a gift from the Chinese.
Chinese. Okay.
So uh, I don't know whether the president of Maldives would ask help from us. He would. He might as well ask from Chinese. But then, if he asks us, I don't know whether we would be ready to undertake this operation again, because of one main reason. If we have learned as a Blue Force, if we have learned some lessons from this operation, so has the Red Force. So the if we again attempt an operation like this, probably we will be welcomed by gun-toting terrorists on the runway itself. Landing would be very, very difficult. So some different sort of planning would have to be done. Again, coming back to the question, I don't know. I am not very sure whether they will ask us again for help.
Okay, I will answer this question query a little differently. See, Operation Cactus had demonstrated that India is a dependable partner, and India is a first responder to any crisis that takes place in its neighborhood. It has demonstrated in natural calamities. It has demonstrated in Sri Lanka when there was a financial crisis. It has recently, even President Moizu, when he was completely abandoned by everyone, including China, to bail him out from the default. Who came forward to rescue him? It was India. 50 million in two stanches were extended to him to save himself from default. And in the past, with Operation Cactus, also demonstrate that if there was a crisis, political crisis in our neighborhood, and the legitimate government needs our help, perhaps it is a political decision, it is a very difficult, but at least our intent will always be to come for the help of our neighbors. And this is how I will like to respond to that question, that Operation Cactus is another example how India came forward in such a difficult condition, difficult position. Still, they took that risk to come to the help of a friendly president, elected president, a legitimate government, and a friendly country who needed our help. And that help, by the way, as told by Groupie Chordia, was refused by England, by US. They were much nearer. Pakistan, nobody helped them. Sir, please.
I like to say China is almost 4,800 kilometers far away from Maldives. We are very near, and we can go to Maldives and help them much faster than China. China will take good amount of time. So if the situation comes again, I am sure Muzuzu will know where to go.
Sir, yes.
So we are in a very good position in Indian Ocean now. At least Indian Navy has uh, almost a blue water navy. We are
Okay. So, anything else, sir? Because we have another question. Can I take the another question, please? Yeah.
yeah.
So there is one Sam Keating and he asks, would having a separate tri-services special forces command, having advanced equipment, joint training, and interoperability be of any great utility in emergency, or should we continue with status quo? Grupi Chordia, you have been in this business, and I think we are much better placed today. Can you respond?
All the three services have their own special forces, and this idea of having a joint special forces or a joint special forces command has been there for a very long time. I am not actually privy to the reasons why it has not come through as yet. But then each service has its own speciality, and which cannot be achieved. I mean, the level of competence can't be achieved by the other service. So, for that reason, all three of them are having their own special forces. It would be a good idea to have a joint force where these, I mean, elements of these three special forces get together and get into special operations. Having them separately is a good thing, and they getting together and exercising together is a better option than having clubbed together and pulling everything together, because then the individuality won't be there. They would not be able to exercise their own ways of working.
Yeah. Okay. We will take the last question. The time is already up. And the last question again comes from Mr. Akash Kishan Tadani. And he says, today we have the Para Special Forces, Marcos, and Garuda. Apparently, along with the Para Special Forces, the Marcos and Garuda are operational in Ladakh. Joint operation at its high altitude. Best your views. I think it is related to the previous question. In continuation, would you like to say something, sir?
I am sorry, I am not privy to the exact details, but then yes, I know that Marcos were invited. I mean, they were called there for operations around the lake, and the Para SF have already been. I mean, they've always been there. Army Para SF, Garuds have been inducted lately there. So all of them are there, and they're working together hand in hand.
But I am sure with so much of technological advancement and in communication, we have taken so much of strides, and we are now unmanned vehicles, UAVs, and that now Indian Navy is much more what you call the minute-to-minute awareness, area awareness. Things have come into being, so we will be much better prepared to undertake such operations, I am sure. And we, as Pichodia said, we are not privy to those details, but being from the defense background, we know that today, if something like this is defense forces are asked to undertake, the preparation level and the resources at its disposal will be many times much higher and much more professional than it was at that point of time. And one question is there. Uh, we have learned Varma course that it was the depth charges that put the mercenaries into a state of battle shock, asymmetric action at its best. Yes, it was improvisation, which the INS Godavari captain did. It is also very, very interesting and laudable. And that,
Yes.
in fact, you're right. That is what demoralized the mercenaries and put them into panic. Correct, sir? Varma, sir?
Yes, yes. Using depth charges, we have also never used depth charges against ships. Depth charges are generally used for submarines only. So this was totally unconventional, thought, and dropping depth charges in front of progress light, and how it is going to be, reactive. The ship really, it was seen to be. You have to believe to see that thing. The ship went almost
Up.
up 2-3 meters and then fell down. Twice it happened. And obviously, anyone who is inside the ship will get scared.
Yeah.
These mercenaries, they forgot about their guns and hostages. They just came up
Okay.
trying to save their lives. So this was, out of this thing, totally jugaad, you can say,
Yeah.
100%.
But that put the fear of their life
Yes, fear,
in them,
fear. Yeah.
and they could not overcome that
And
and
in fact,
surrender.
now Indian Navy has, after that, Indian Navy has even caught so many pirates in Somalia and other places, and they there they have to board the ship and then make them surrender. So which is quite dangerous actually. Here we were quite safe that way.
Okay, thank you very much, Chordia sir, Varma sir. And there is one thank coming from Colonel Madhavan, who is one of our founding members. And he has been watching this, and he says, "Thank you so very much, Group Captain Chordia and Captain Varma, for enlightening us with what actually took place in Maldives. The chance of something untowards happening was very likely." Yeah, if you talk about the danger and the risk, that was phenomenal. We just can't describe what all could have happened.
Well, yeah.
So Brigadier Balsara salutes. So that is our acknowledgement of both to you, sir, for having lived those moments, having lived those tremendous certainties and the thrill of that actual military operation. That
Yes.
is the dream of uh, every Fauji in uniform, that if he to see that action and experience it, and that you have done. Thank you very much for sharing it. And as was suggested, I will request Group Captain Chordia to seriously contemplate to having another discussion on the same topic, getting more people on board, and for a longer duration. I am sure the kind of interest that it has elicited, and we will have a larger viewership
I think I
next
can
week.
speak to. I think I can speak to General Mehta. Oh, sorry, General Bhatia.
But
I'm in touch with him, and I can request him in case he can join, and three of us can be
we'll
there again.
yeah, we will get some senior people who are involved, and your presentation is tremendous, sir. I will request you to give the presentation, Varma sir, to be present, and we will have a large panel where you can exchange your own personal experiences and exchange notes. Thank you very much, sir. So with this, we will call this off, and thank you to the IT team, the CLAWS, for making their platform available to us. Thank you all the viewers who took time to be present and be with us. And this recording will be available, and you can share it with everyone, those who could not attend. Thank you, Mr. Yuvraj from the IT team. You have always been a great help, and you solved some technical problems at the last minute to see this program was through. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, my esteemed speakers, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Jain. Jain.